Okay, we'll call to order this special meeting of the Navasota City Council on the 28th of August at 4:36 p.m. in council chambers. And just roll right into item number 2, workshop to discuss the addition of a tuition reimbursement policy for the City of Navasota employees as a new benefit. Mr. Weeks.
Mayor, members of council, if you'll remember last year when we went through the budget process, we talked about tuition reimbursement, and council wanted to move forward with the policy. Unfortunately, due to staff workloads and everything, we weren't able to get to looking at the policy until this summer. So staff did a lot of research related to the next 4 policies we're going to talk about. The first one, it has to do with tuition reimbursement. The Internal Revenue Code allows municipalities to cover employees with provided education assistant programs. There's the policy you have before you would be implemented through the Human Resource Department, so Peggy would kind of be overseeing this. Staff has worked with legal counsel on the attached policy itself with the purpose of beginning it October 1st, 2023. And kind of give you some highlights of what the policy includes is all courses reimbursed under the policy will be taken on an employee's own time. And so employees that participate in this, they would have to do so when they're not on work time. The employee must attain a course grade equivalent to at least a C or better in each course. There are some classes it's either pass or fail, so it would be a pass, or at least if it's a grade letter, it would be a C. And the reimbursement rates may not exceed current Texas A&M University tuition and fee scheduled rates for Texas residents. So full-time employees are eligible for reimbursement up to 60% of eligible expenses annually. So the 60% is something staff just came up with. It's just kind of when we looked at some other cities, what they're doing, came up with the 60%. So that's something that council can look at either initially when we talk about this, but on an annual basis when we move forward through the budget process. In addition to that, not to exceed $40,000 per employee over the entire duration of employment. So within the policy, it allows an employee to get an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's. Does not provide any opportunity for any doctoral programs, because doctoral is nothing we actually need to. There's not much value that we're going to get out of that. And once you get up into the graduate level, it'd be something related to a position that, or a degree that would be more in line with what municipal work would be. For instance, let's take a finance executive. So a finance employee may be working toward the master's in financial accounting so they can take their CPA exam. Or if somebody wishes to be in city management, public administration, or if there's a master's program in Parks and Rec or something like that, or landscape architect or planning, those type classes. It would include fees for tuition, mandatory fees, and the parking fees, supplies, books, travel, late fees, property deposits, and other expenses would not be eligible. Employees would have an opportunity to learn, like I said, an associate's degree or master's in most of the majors. And then additionally, there's wording in there to provide clawback provisions where the employee would have to pay back some of those tuitions if they do not stay with the organization for a period of time after they received their tuition reimbursement. Currently, right now, there's no department that is budgeted for tuition reimbursement in the current proposed budget. And so if a employee decides that they want to participate in this, then they would need to get with their department director and identifying some funding sources for that, which would mean that they would not do something that they currently do, or if there's possible some savings in, if we have a position that was open and there's be some savings for that position, because tuition reimbursement is basically a one-time cost item, so that there would be opportunity for funding through that. And if you look into the actual tuition policy, it's broken down into several segments. We talk about the eligibility requirements. So under this, it just mainly says that The employee would need to submit a request, number one, to the department director, and that would be forwarded to the HR to make sure that everybody's on board with it. And then the final approval would need to come through my office, signing off on it. We will make sure that there's no conflict between the employee's classes and the employee's responsibility, because their job responsibility must come first. And we'll talk about what the grades that have to at least get a grade equivalent of a C. Number two talks about the reimbursement categories, where I've already mentioned about the 60% with a not to exceed per $40,000 per employee over the entire duration of the employment. And so, though you hear $40,000, that's a lot. So, take for instance, we've got our city secretary that's been here 40 years. If employee that wants to get an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree, there are limited times where they can take those classes when you actually go into the class. So sometimes online programs are the only source. Online programs are a little more costly and cost a little bit more. So again, the $40,000 is that, again, that can be adjusted per council if you decide to wish that to go down anymore. And then we talk about the college university tuition program, so you actually can click on www.college for all Texans, which lists out associates, masters, and bachelor's programs through the Texas Institution of Higher Education eligible programs. Most majors for associates are acceptable. Most majors for bachelors are acceptable to advance within the city. And then, as I mentioned before, masters would need to be applicable to city advancement. And of course, there are some opportunities for vocational. So understanding that somebody from Public Works might want to go and get a welding certification or something else, that's something they can use not only for the city but also personally. Those things, anything that might be able to provide something to the city back. We talk about service requirements in there. If the termination of employment occurs, voluntary or involuntary, and a repayment amount is owed, that the last paycheck was where that amount would be come from their terminated, if they're terminated for purposes that were voluntary, involuntary. And then the last section talks about the application procedures. It talks about when they need to do a pre-approval form by May 1st. The reason that we're asking for a pre-approval form is so that we can make sure that we include that in the budget, go through the budget process, understanding that tuition reimbursement is not, it's not always a done deal, that the council does not approve tuition reimbursements within the budget, then we can't move forward with it. So that's when we're asking for them to move forward with giving us an idea of what they plan on doing, and then you walk through the process. The employee, once the grades are received, they have to submit a form within 30 days that shows the grades and the completion of the class, and then they would be reimbursed. And then, of course, special considerations: the city will not pay the cost of tuition and mandatory fees which are paid by other sources. So scholarships, grants, any veterans programs. For instance, my son now is through the Hazelwood Act. So his dad was in the military, and so he was provided 130 hours of semesters free tuition to use at a public school. And so with that, you couldn't double dip, basically what that is. So it would be only reimbursing for those costs that are out of pocket, as well as any U.S. military reserve or aid programs or other subsidies. Paying overtime to the employee or to another employee in order to accommodate courses is not permitted. So as I mentioned in the write-up, if the idea is for the employee to do this on their own time, so there shouldn't be any overtime occurred. And what this is saying is we're not going to allow any overtime to allow the employee to take these classes. And then the last one is availability of tuition reimbursement, subject to City Council approving the funding levels. Does the Council have any questions on this? I know that staff, our Economic Development Director worked really hard on some of these here. She's not able to be here tonight. She's actually sick. But if you have any questions, think myself or Kerry can be able to answer these because he helped finalize the policies.
This is not a straight line process, nor is it one that is real neat and tidy and only takes up a little bit of time. The applicant has to start off with getting together with the school and get accepted by the school and come up with a degree program first and get that approved by the city.
Yes, sir.
Then they have to go in and register and take, assuming that's approved. And then they go in and pay for themselves all the expenses and take the course. And only after completion of the course with a C average or better, then they come back for reimbursement.
Yes, sir.
So this is a total reimbursement program.
Yes, sir.
One of the obstacles that a lot of people would have in this whole thing is coming up with the money to take the course before the reimbursement comes through. In other words, they've got to foot the bill. They've got to have a loan or something for 4 months, 5 months, or something like that, until they come up with the reimbursement. Is there any thought to taking care of this? I think this is the most difficult step. Is there any thought of combining this with something or coming up with a program somehow to get the money up front?
That's a risk.
Yeah, I've not been at a city that does that because tuition reimbursement is to assist an employee in getting a further education. It is not, in doing that, it appears as though the city is funding 100% of the reimbursement, and that's not the case. We want for the employee to have buy-in to it at the very beginning. So I've taken advantage of benefits like this at two of my employments, the two previous cities for this. And yes, I had to get a loan for it because the tuition reimbursement is not there to do 100% of. It's not going to be able to pay 100% of a bachelor's degree or associate's degree. The employee is going to have to bear some responsibility of it. So the idea is have an employee come in, show that they're dedicated to it, because what happens if the employee doesn't get the C? I mean, I'd hate to.
Then there's a clawback.
A clawback, but I would hate to have an employee where the city puts in $3,000 for 12 hours of classes, and then at the end they don't get the C, and then I can't go to their to a paycheck and say I need to pull $3,000 out. I'm gonna have to take that $3,000 divided over a couple months. I think it's better to get it as a reimbursement.
That still leaves a problem of people needing to come up with the money at the start.
But again, the tuition reimbursement, so there's X amount that you can get, period, 60% of it. So they're already going to have to come up with the 40%.
Right.
So they're already having to come up with a portion of it already. And we're just saying we're going to reimburse it.
What about the ones that have already paid 100% and it's working for the city?
Not a benefit to them.
Not a benefit to them. Yeah. So this is for people that currently do not have that work for us that currently do not have a degree, and any future employees. Again, this is it's more of a retention and attraction than it is for someone. So for myself and some of the employees, we've already got tuition reimbursement from other locations where we've been maybe, or we've already got our degree. I got it, it's just that we're not gonna go back.
What's the pros on that?
The pros,
Yes.
Sure.
What's the pros if you already have a employee working for you, and they go to school and go through this program and you reimburse them? What's the pro? That they get more money?
no, sir, so later on, we're gonna talk about what we call certification pay, and I'm not proposing providing any certification pay for anybody having a degree. The idea that is strictly certifications, it's not degree related. This is just to further education. Going and get it further in your educating and gathering your skill sets, theoretical skill sets, I think is very valuable to a city. It allows, right now, we don't currently offer any diversity training. Diversity is kind of built within a school system, and so you get a lot of your diversity training through your school classes. So you're working directly with professors and other students that come from all different likes of business and makeup and ethnicity, and so the diversity is a huge piece that you get in there. In addition to that, you're going to have to write papers, you're going to have to learn the skill of writing, and that is a huge benefit, especially to our workforce now. That is something that we need a lot of improvement. A lot of employees are scared to death of a computer sometimes, and writing a Word document or working on Excel, it's not something that they're used to and don't even know how to use it. And so research skills, so I will tell you, I know the police department took a lot of advantage of their skills. A lot of the police department has degrees within their department. They went out and used some of that skill set that they've learned when they were in school about doing research, and they went out and searched for grants. Were able to find different grants, and so there's a lot of benefits of attaining and getting a degree that can benefit the city.
In your experience, how many hours would a employee be able to attend? I mean, it's not a full load, I wouldn't guess, because you're working full time. So is it like 2 classes? So it'd be, you thinking $6,000 a semester for somebody that wants to go take 2 classes, or?
It's as much time as the employee can put forward. Seasons passing, I just wasn't the type that I wanted. If I didn't get an A, I was very disappointed in myself. So I put a lot of more time and effort when I worked on my master's program. My master's program was a little bit different. You took 8-week courses, so you did two 8-week courses in a semester, and so it was just one class each time. But it was significant. I mean, that's what I did when I was off work, was reading and writing papers. And for like a master's, you are writing a lot of papers. It's a lot more writing. It's a lot more research. From your associates and bachelors, that is getting into your reading, writing, and math, your math skills. And so that could be anywhere from 2 to maybe 3 classes. I do not know how an employee would be able to handle a full schedule of 12 hours. I don't know how they would do that. It would be a lot of time and effort. But nowadays with online programs, you don't actually have to go to a class. You get a syllabus. You get here you need to read these pages, and we're going to have a quiz on this date. And everything's done electronically through an app that they have. They're assigned groups, and so you have groups that you have to go online and put together a program, maybe record a PowerPoint presentation together and present it, video it and present it to the group, and the whole group has to critique it. There's a lot of other ways that through technology now that you don't go to a classroom anymore. But
My question is really about how much money would you expect per staff member that wants to go to be reimbursed? Well, what is that? What is A&M's?
And I didn't actually put down. I didn't look at the actual number of what that number would be. I'm thinking anywhere from 6 to 9 hours. I mean, that would be probably the max for employee. I wouldn't think that, I would think most employees would do maybe 2 classes a semester.
What's that rate?
I have a child in college at this moment. She's
Okay.
at Glenn. So she's taking about 10 hours this semester, and we're paying about $3,300. And then that's not including her textbooks or parking space. That's just tuition.
Well, this takes care of the parking places, but not the textbooks.
How much did you say?
Glenn is about $3,300.
For how many classes?
10 hours. so
Okay, yeah, and that's probably, I think that's about,
Part-time
Yeah.
student.
I think 6,000 is gonna be more as you get higher up. A&M.
Looking at 6 to 7,000.
It's about 8. Yeah.
So, plus there a certain amount of usage fees and what have you.
Plus, I know, because I went for engineering, I had to pay an extra $1,000 for a semester. So there's a lot of things like that.
Hey, John, when you talk, you have to hold that button down when you talk.
Sorry. So Raina said that Jennifer's correct on the amount, the amount that she said. She said annual tuition for A&M is $11,500, and that, I'm assuming that would be for full load.
For 15 credit.
Yeah, and I don't know of how an employee would do that.
I mean, currently, we're looking at having difficulty hiring some people based on the qualifications that are needed and the pay that we have available to pay them. And so if we were able to have someone that was very interested in that has a little bit of experience, that's already working for the city, I don't know, let's say like a building inspector, and they needed the higher qualifications, then they at that point would be more able to pursue those things, knowing that they had a job, they had the ability, and that we were willing to compensate for that. I think that it's a wonderful thing. The more intelligence that you feed into your employees, I think those opportunities are really, really good. I would love to
One
see.
opportunities for advancement.
Yeah, and
I
so
love
here's the other
advancement.
thing, so I can tell you, so for instance, I'll give you an example. We have one current director that doesn't have a degree, wants to go back to school, is signed up and going. But the offset is they understand, I'm going to school, I'm probably not gonna be able to go to a bunch of conferences. That is my development. And so that's where I was when I was at a city. I didn't go to TML or ICMA or TCMA or GFOA conference because I used those funds that they were using for reimbursement to go toward my reimbursement for my education that year. So that's how some of the funding will occur is we've already got money put in the budget for educational and development for our employees. It's just utilizing that for these purposes until they get that degree.
Without putting a quota on it, we're not talking about that many people at one
No,
time.
sir, you're not talking about a
It
lot.
needs to be accepted into it, correct? Because the city would have to
So
approve.
that's-
I mean,
so that's-
you can't be a director of finance and decided you're gonna go back for a master's in art.
Right.
You just can't do that.
Correct, yeah. So again, that's why I have final say over, and when we also, number one, the student has, we gotta have the student to have buy-in. So we gotta have the employee to have buy-in as a student to be able to get, number one, get accepted to the college, go through that process that you have to go through, which isn't easy. And then number two is, put a degree plan of what you wanna do and make sure that it aligns with what the policy says we can do. And then let's start moving forward. And again, it's the department director and the employee working together with HR to find out where that right fit is. Because the other part is maybe that employee participates in the tuition reimbursement that first semester, and their work productivity goes down. Then we need to have a discussion because maybe that's not the best fit. Maybe you need to back off or something else. But that's why we say the number one is the job responsibility. If the job responsibility and productivity starts going down because of this, then we need to have a discussion.
But the intention of this is for the, the benefit of the city,
Yes, sir.
and yet it can't be part of a certification program or anything.
Correct, and because there's, if we do that, so for instance, my job, I think you require me at least to have a bachelor's degree. There are some positions that have that as a requirement, so you're paying for a requirement of something that we already have. The other piece is, there is a lot of we have a lot of employees that have degrees. More than most municipalities, especially in the police department. I mean, I've never had a police department that had that many graduates, especially from one university in a program, and so you would be paying out a lot for that, and it's not something. Again, the certification pay we'll talk about later. I didn't really want to bring that into it. I wanted to talk about actual certifications for skill sets.
This would just be on a much smaller scale.
Yes, sir. And again, it's only going. It's similar to last year when we went through the budget process. We talked about the little Rattler program, us, working with NISD, allowing for the daycare program. We only got like 2 employees that participate. Again, it's just as a tool for employee retention and attraction.
And this would not be on city time, it would be on personal time?
It's on personal time. It is not for city time. Now, the only thing that would be like on city time would be if, hey, they got to come and do a presentation here to you. There are times when you got to do presentations to boards, and I know when you get up in your master's program, you actually have to come and do a thing. So I wouldn't say it's on their time. It's just they got to come before a board here and present. So something like that.
Well, it even says in there that if they have a class that they have to take, and it would impinge that they can arrange through you to swap off time.
Yeah, so that is clearly up to the department head on working on the schedule for that.
One other question here. If we have a employee who rolls into this program and leave the city, and last paycheck is not enough to cover what is owed, how is that recovered?
More than likely, it's just something that we'll just have to chalk up. I mean,
So it's no agreement that you would have to sign anything?
I don't know how you would actually, how you would be able to enforce it.
So it's just a,
I would have to ask Carrie. I don't.
If they didn't pay.
I mean,
you have to
technically,
sue them.
so well.
That's what would happen.
So technically, what I would probably do was, I would probably add it to their W-2. I would add it to their W-2 as a benefit.
Yeah.
It was money they made that they didn't have to
Yes,
pay back.
yeah.
Same way if you
Yeah.
default on a loan, you get
You get a
popped by the
1099
IRS
for that. Yeah.
That's a good point, because normally benefits like this would be taxable, and so that's how you could handle it, so that there is some consequence.
I mean, I've done this through a business. I worked for a clinic, and I had a technical degree, and I did all of that, and they reimbursed me for anything extra that I did. And I had to sign a service contract, and if I busted on that service contract, they agreed they would sue me.
But I think the easiest way is to add it to their W-2. Again, we don't get it back, but the employee, so it encourages the employee to pay it back. So if not, they're gonna have to pay tax on it.
Do we need to add that to the policy?
I don't, it's just part of the process. I will, if anything happens, then I'll get with legal counsel and we'll take the best action legally that we need to.
I think it's a great idea.
Any other questions? All right, I will try to bring this back at a future council meeting for action. If everybody's has a consent, yes.
Understanding that when you bring it back, there may be additional questions that will
It
come
might
up.
be, correct.
It's all you get.
I got it.
Get out now.
I promise not to bring it back on a consent calendar, but I will bring it back at a future meeting.
But it's done mainly on a case-by-case kind of basis anyway, so.
I'm
That's
in
what makes
favor
it-
of it. I
that's
mean,
what-
I think it's a great
No, I just
idea.
think that's what makes it good, is that
Yeah.
it's not an overreaching
It's not
kind
across
of
the
a policy
board.
where this can be, you know.
Well, it's one more thing
pinpointed.
to add to our list of things that we have to offer. And so
Yeah.
that is the benefit.
Yeah.
Well, it's scary until you come down to the realization that it's gonna be a pretty rare occurrence.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly, that was my point.
Okay.
but at least it's, you know,
Pretty nice.
at least it's there.
Okay.
Item 3 would be the addition, discussion on the addition of paid parental leave policy as a new benefit.
Mayor and council, if an employee for the city of Navasota currently has a birth of a child, adopts a child, or fosters a child, they're forced to use vacation and sick when these life-changing events occur. So when the mother goes in to have the birth, that sick time after the birth, then that is use of vacation, comp time, whatever other PTO time that they currently have, as well as if we have a father that has the birth of a child, would need to be using vacation time. So the purpose of the paid parental leave is to enable the employee to care for and bond with the newborn, as well as any new adopted or newly paced child. One of the things is, again, is proposed to start October 1st, to be eligible for employees immediately following the birth, adoption, or foster care placement of a child under the age of 18. Employees eligible for the leave would need to be eligible for FMLA, which would run concurrent with the paid parental leave. Eligible employees would receive 3 continuous weeks. The hours will differ depending on the employee's part of police, fire, or civilian employee pool. The city's already budgeted 100% of that employee's time as part of their salary budget. So the only financial consequence would be if during that 3 weeks, if additional overtime needed to be paid for while that employee was out, or any other interim type or temporary services need to be paid while that employee is out. Within the policy there, it also talks about eligible employees may use up to 2 times, once per child per 12-month period. So kind of give you an example, an employee may take parental leave in January and use the paid parental leave after the birth of a child, and then may use the parental paid leave again later in the year after the adoption or the birth of another child. So you have to factor in. So you get January, and then 9 months later, or you get pregnant right after that, and then 9 months later, either you adopt or somehow you have birth of another child within 1 year. There is
Possible that is.
no.
No, it is not.
No, no,
Huh?
no. I thought the same
My
thing.
nieces
It's coming
are
pretty
11
close.
months apart.
Yes,
To have,
yeah. So we ran the math, and so
Wait a minute.
I had to try to figure it out too.
Not
9
all
months?
babies are carried to full term.
18 months, isn't it?
Yeah. So the parental paid leave will end if employees no longer meet eligibility, such as switching from full-time to part-time. If the employee will be paid at 100% of the employee's base rate and will not reduce any of the leave balances. So currently, right now, the practice is yeah, you get, like I said, you have to use your vacation. We don't want to penalize. This is an additional benefit on top of the vacation and sick time.
What about the case of a full-time employee who then has some problems with their pregnancy and has doctor's orders to go to part-time? do they still count, when they come to term, do they still count as a full-time employee for the purposes of this, or
So
part-time?
it's, I think it's written in here, I'm going to try to find it here. Eligible employees will be provided up to 3 continuous weeks, 120 hours, 126 hours for police, 160 hours maximum for shift, immediately following the birth adoption. If both parents are eligible, I'm trying to figure, beginning at week 4, I'm trying to remember what was in
I
here.
don't think it's in.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's in it. I guess wouldn't they still be considered a full-time employee? They'd still be categorized as a full-time employee, but the medical issue, I think they would be, temporarily assigned part-time, just
Yeah.
as kind of a light-duty
Now,
category. So I
yes.
think they'd still qualify.
Yeah.
So the employee so let's say a mother gives birth of a child, uses the 3 weeks, but, okay, wants to have more time with the child. Well, then we're only saying the parental leave is for 3 weeks.
Right.
At that point, then you'll need to start using your PPO, PTO, your vacation time, for that, if you want any further. So for instance, we had a mother in the police department that had a birth of a child, and she used 8 weeks, I think, of her vacation time for that. So
What's FMLA?
FMA is Family Medical Leave Act.
Okay.
And so Family Medical Leave Act is 12 consecutive weeks of time off where you're guaranteed your position back.
And this applies to fathers as well?
It applies to fathers as well.
What if the mother and the father work for the city?
So we talk about that in here. So of course, the mother would be the first 3 weeks.
Doesn't matter, they
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
can
it
take
doesn't
off at
matter.
the same time, or?
Either way,
Yeah.
either be the same time, or they can follow one on the other.
Yeah, so the mother has concluded, both parents are eligible employees. The mother giving birth must take PPLA first, and then the father or second parent must take at the same time or immediately after the mother's PPLA is concluded. Can't
And
wait
this
for
is not
later.
one of those things that we can pool, these are not one of these things that you can, like, say someone had a premature child, and this is just speculative, I have no idea, because it happens. But someone has well, when I went for the district, we all gave all of our time to one mother, and none of us took any of our time the rest of the year after she had a premature birth and was gonna have to be back and forth from, Texas Children's.
Nah,
There's no pooling. I was just asking.
No, we kind of did that with the catastrophic. We didn't think about this for this, so maybe it's something to look at future, but it's not in this one, no, ma'am.
Maybe we could think
Is
about
this
it.
fairly common in municipalities?
It is becoming more common. It is, again, something to attract and retain employees. I know that we have one immediate employee within financial services that this would benefit employee. It's been here over a year, and
There's also a minimum year, did I read that?
yeah, it's a year, yeah, 1 year minimum. So, and I think that employee is due in October. I'm looking at staff, I don't know when? November. So that employee would get to benefit from.
I have a question. It's not about this really, I don't think. So I'm looking at Peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope it's on the agenda.
Well, it is. I mean, it kind of.
All right.
The question really is, all of these things are going to affect Peggy, is that right? So all of this is coming out of her office? All of the monitoring and control and all of that comes out of her office?
So somewhat, I mean, part of it is, so PPL, when we note it, when an employee says, I'm gonna go on PPL, so we will note it, and then it'll go into we'll put that time in their bank, and so then when finance is, because payroll's done out of finance now, HR is only managing the benefits, so Peggy would go in and put the total number of hours, whether it's 120 hours, 126 hours, then finance would pull from it, and once it's pulled, then it's done. So it's a combination of finance and HR.
And I guess our system that we work from, can be implemented into that? Okay.
It's just an additional benefit, yes, sir.
Okay.
Marital status involved in this?
Sir?
Is marital status involved in this? You get paternity leave if you're the father, even though you're not.
We didn't know, sir. It's just mother and father. That's the only way that it's written.
Or an adoptive.
Or adoptive.
Adoptive, mother and father.
Well, they're not gonna adopt them if you're not a mother and father or
Yeah.
couple anyway.
It's full adoption there, not foster.
Foster's included.
Foster's included in
included.
this too.
Okay.
Foster's
Yes,
included as
yes,
well.
ma'am. It's up to age 18. 18 can be waived if there's a disability.
And overall, staff is excited about this? I mean, have you heard any feedback at all?
So I'm sure there's some staff that's probably upset because they had to use their vacation time for it. I mean,
Well, that shouldn't punish the ones that didn't.
correct, I got it. So I haven't heard any negative, no, sir.
You missed 24 weeks of paid vacation.
And so many cities, you talked about, you asked about any other cities do, so many cities are doing 6, 8, 9, 12 weeks. We're only proposing 3 weeks. We want to start somewhere, so we just propose 3 weeks.
Okay.
Any other
And it's
questions?
something they don't have now at all.
Yes, sir.
So,
Any other questions?
So when you say that you hadn't got any feedback from staff, do staff know about it?
Yeah, I'm seeing shakes there. So the directors, were asked to go and have discussions with their employees about this. So, yes, sir. Seeing no other things, I'll be sure to, place this on a future agenda for action item then.
Okay, discuss the addition of certification pay and a policy for the city of Navasota as a new benefit.
Mayor and council, as we went through our strategic plan earlier this year, goal number 4, staffing, part of that was to, 4.3 was to improve employee benefits. And one of the top priority was add stipend for certifications and miscellaneous designations and or qualifications. And so we went around, the department directors went around and provided me what certifications our current staff have. As of right now, the police department has been the only department that has been paying certification pay to employees. And so we thought it was great now that council has added this as a goal that we could come in and look at providing certification pay to our employees. And so based on what certifications are currently, our employees currently have, we came up with a dollar amount, it's in the document as well. And within the proposed budget, we've got those certification pays in there. To go a little bit above and beyond, there are other certification pays that we didn't want to cap people at, these are only certifications we're going to offer. That way, if there's opportunities for employees to want to go out and better themselves in a different other skill or add some other certifications, what would those be? And so in the document, you have what we call a certification pay schedule, and it's broken down between departments. And so the idea was to come up with a cap, and so that we didn't want an employee to go and get all these different certifications and pay them, they'd be like $7,000-9,000 worth of certifications, and that becomes basically you're subsidizing your salary too, so it becomes a line item on your check. The idea is we're getting these benefits from these employees having these certifications, and then providing them a stipend for it. So the idea is for all non-public safety employees would be capped at $250 per month, and then for our public safety employees at $300 a month. And so, in addition to that, in the policy, we have incorporated the Navasota Fire Department to have a supervisory step-up pay, which is not currently being provided. So right now, at the chief's discretion, there is right now there's 2 firefighters that go out on a run, and when they go out, there's somebody that's got to take some leadership role in that call, and it's called step-up. And so right now, the chief assigns whoever in that shift is going to step up. There's not additional pay. There's not a job description for it. It just means there's somebody that has to take that leadership when they get there on the scene. So the request is, until we have captains or senior firefighters or lieutenants within the fire department, because right now I don't believe the department's big enough to be able to provide those, we provide what we call step-up pay, and that's just a stipend to them for stepping up into those roles, and that pay is around $270.83 per month, or $3,200 per year, and that is not related to the certification pay. So a firefighter that steps up can receive the $32,500 plus the $3,600 if they have other certifications. Again, it's a step up. It's not a certification pay. So when you look at the actual pay policy, it talks about different departments. So citywide, it's looking at providing citywide for anybody that can provide bilingual, that's oral and written, a stipend for that. It's got city secretary, there only found one type of certification for the city secretary. There's multiple areas and development services. Most of that is, we contract out a lot of our services for plan review and some different type of inspections, and so providing those type of certifications. And there's different amounts there. I put the annual, the monthly, and the bi-weekly. How those amounts came about was a lot based on how the police department's current pay structure is. So when you look at the police department, currently they pay officers, or the master, the advanced, intermediate, and basic. And so masters means a little bit more, it's the highest level you can get, and they're currently paying $1,500 annually for that. And then they pay $1,200 annually for advanced, $900 for intermediate, and basic at $600. So kind of incorporated that with the other departments to be a little bit more cohesive with how those payments are being proposed for the stipends. In addition to that, it also relates to the difficulty in obtaining and maintaining those certifications. So I'll give you an example. So a certified public accountant, you got to pass the CPA exam. Once you pass the CPA exam, there's number of hours annually that you've got to get CPE, certified credit hours, where you actually go to class, similar to what TML requires you to get for your certificate, whatever it is that you, the number of hours to become, I forgot what it is, Mayor, what is it, y'all?
Certified municipal.
Certified, yeah, professional. So similar to that, the level of obtaining those certifications has a higher amount. And so, again, I didn't want to strap our employees just at what current certification they have, but provide them opportunity to go out there and look at what we're going to be able to provide stipends for, and then kind of work toward obtaining some of these stipends. As I mentioned, in the budget, we did include funding for this. The total funding for all certifications in the entire city is around $51,000, and that was in the general fund, water, natural gas fund, and the wastewater fund. Any questions?
A lot of these were already in existence, though. I mean,
Yes, sir.
it was
So
already in their, I guess, in their respective budgets.
So
like wastewater?
Yes, sir. So, yes, wastewater, we got wastewater license, water
State
license.
licensing that's required.
CDLs, our fire department right now, we got certifications that they have for is it advanced firefighter, intermediate, advanced? How many, any idea how many you have that's in that so far? Okay.
Why are the class A, B, C, and D water listed under financial services and then again under utilities?
So they're the same amounts, and it's because financial services, you remember there is a water technician, I think that's their title, is that correct? Water technician? Meter technician? Meter technician. So we have a one meter technician in there that goes out and helps out with water meters, and
It just falls under that department.
just falls under that department, and it's the only, comes out of that budget, so that's why it falls under there.
So it's a budgetary thing rather than a qualification thing?
So they're not required to have a water license.
Not required.
Okay.
But since he works with water meters, if he wants to get a license for it, we're saying we'll provide you a stipend for it.
Also, too, if he wants to possibly transfer to another department, it'd be good for him to go out for those certifications. He can transfer into the wastewater or the water department.
Well, are we gonna give this to people that, the certification because they passed the test or something, or because they're operating in that particular station?
So if they have the certification and it's within, I think there were, I'm trying to look at the policy. They must actually provide the certificate documentations, and they must keep the certificate up. So there are some requirements for number of hours and those type of things that you're going to have to be able to keep the certification up. So you have to keep the certification up. All employee grades are eligible for the certification pay. Department directors may implement their own departmental policies related to certification pay that are stricter and require additional documentation and or processes than the certification policy. So within the policy, we state what is required for them to provide to us. However, a department might provide some stricter requirements for that. The employee will only receive certification pay while in a department that recognizes the specific certification and which is listed on the policy. So I'll give you an example. So currently right now, your public works director has a certification as a city secretary. She receives the Texas administered registered municipal clerk. She's not going to get certification for that because it's not listed there. So that's the example. So you can't have somebody, a firefighter, that might also, I'll use it the other way. We have a police officer that used to work in the fire department, but now that also has
Dual certification.
dual certification here. So we can't double dip into there.
Okay.
So
But can you, like in the public works, you could have brakes, hazmat endorsement, herbicide, pesticide, and so it's 1154 bi-weekly for all of the certifications that you'd have underneath that,
yes, up to the max,
which is 300,
which is 250
250.
per month.
Okay, and then I have another question. This is the step-up pay for the fire department.
Yes, sir.
You said that when they go on calls, they don't have one person that's in.
So let me ask Jason to come up and kind of explain that better.
Well, let me finish my question. So the question is it the same person that would be on that shift that would always be the step-up pay, and not that it would be shift A and then next shift A, they switch and the partner becomes the step-up person?
It would usually be the same person for each shift, but it could change. If they take vacation, somebody else is going to have to do it. It's, like Mr. Weeks said, we don't currently have captains any longer, or lieutenants. We hope to get back there sometime, but somebody still has to take care of the daily paperwork, logs, signing the duty roster out for the day, things like that. And so that person, we have people that are doing that now, but they don't get anything extra for doing it.
So when the time goes into HR, how does anybody know that it's the step-up pay or not the step-up pay? And that may be none of my business, but just.
So that's gonna be Jason's responsibility, is when he goes in, is make sure that it's been recorded in there.
We'll have to get with Time Clock Plus and probably create a new category,
A code or something.
a code for it.
And also too, back on the meter technician or the water technician, it's not required for him to have a license, but if he's interested, he would have to use his license. So he would have to come in on weekends to do the water and wastewater rounds. Him just wanting to get it, just to get it, so he can get certification pay, that's something that we wouldn't have him do.
Yeah, I'll give you another example. So we got several employees that have CDLs. So CDLs required for the street sweeper, correct? So street sweeper's not one of the most popular positions people want to do, because they have to get up at 4 o'clock and go street sweep downtown before everybody gets there, and so it's not really popular. But if you're going to be paid for CDL, you got to use it. And so if you're not willing to step up when we need you for those, then we're not going to continue paying.
Gotcha. Jason, to continue on what Mr. Fultz asked about, you wouldn't have a situation where you have two guys and their buddies and they decide to split the step-up pay?
No, he mentioned about, each department can have a policy. It's actually in the policy that I've written that we cannot have two at one time. Unless there's say we have a hurricane or something, we're gonna have extra staffing.
Yeah.
There may be the need for having two of those positions at the time, but that's not a normal occurrence, no.
Well, an alternating type thing, okay, well, I'll do it this week and you do it next week.
No, it's not meant for that, no.
Yeah. I know it's not meant for that, but it's.
Yeah,
It's the chief's discretion.
I still have the control as to who is that. It's not them alternating, it's me going, you are
Okay.
riding in this position right now.
Well, I've got issues with that because you've already getting paid, and it's not like that you're going to be running fires all day. And while you're sitting down doing nothing and still getting paid, you go out on a fire truck or a fire, and you've got 2 or 3 people. One person is going to get paid more than the other person, and everybody's doing the same thing.
Mr. Harris, there's more to it than just going out on the calls. That they have paperwork that has to be completed every day. They make sure that all the, when they do go on runs, that the reports are entered for the day. There's a daily log that is done. There may
But
be
that's
some
part of
training.
their job description, though, right?
No, sir. Not, this
Or
is.
is that part
this
of
is-
your job description, and they're doing it, or what?
This is part of it, when we had captains, at the station, this was their jobs. We've brought it down a little bit where they don't have quite as much, but they're still having to do extra work over what the, regular firefighter does.
See, I've got a problem with that because when you're hired, you know your job description, and it doesn't change. And when you get in the race, you want to get paid more, but you got hired to do something. But to me, now this is just to me, we're wanting to, I'm gonna guess use the word, sweeten the pot on all of the employees. I like the chart that you made, that you had citizens first. We've got to take care of the citizens first. I mean, yes, take care of the employees, but we need some quality of life here. And we're budgeting everything going towards payroll. It's gonna have to come to a point where we're gonna have to start doing something for the people. And I'm listening to what everybody's saying. Everything is towards the employees. I mean, we sat right here last city council meeting and gave one of the employees, put on Clyde 9. Got home, got a text, She had resigned before the meeting. So that's what I'm saying is that yes, if you work, you need to get paid. But when you get hired, you accept that pay. Whether you stay or not, Navasota is a great town. But we cannot keep using Navasota as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. Now, that's my feelings.
Chief, so did we have chiefs or captains at one time? How long ago did we have that?
It's been probably 4 or 5 years since we've had captains, and it just,
Was it when we had to have the mass layoffs?
that was part of it.
I'd like to remind everyone that we still have not made it back to 100% since we had mass layoffs.
So did you have any more employees? How many employees did you lose during the RIF?
2.
Two. And I'm assuming also the captains, so.
Well, they may have held their position, but then when they either resigned to go somewhere else, they just never got replaced. So there again, it is a little bit different in the job description. These people the ones that we're asking to step up and ride, they're asked to do more. This was not part of the job description that they signed up for. So right now, they've graciously done it for no extra pay.
And you're also talking not just, excuse me, fire response, but also EMS response. So somebody on that shift has to say, this is the care that we're going to provide, or the standard of care, level of care. And so it could be that you have to have somebody make that decision.
You have to put your
About
neck
what
on the
you're gonna-
line, because
Yeah,
if you make
yeah.
the wrong decision, someone pays with their life.
Can you explain to me, which is a good thing, but I just want to know why, when the ambulance is called, that the fire department responds also?
This started back in 2008. St. Joseph EMS only provided Grimes County with maybe 2 ambulances. So there was long waits for our citizens before an ambulance could get there. Now the responses are better, but some of the calls are more difficult, and it just more hands on the patient. We can still get there. There's still a limited number of ambulances. There are still some waits. All my paid staff, every one of them is an EMT at least, or a paramedic. So they have.
Pretty common across the state.
Yeah, this is a
All
standard.
firefighters are
This is
now.
standard of the industry.
So it's more like just a service then?
It's a service. It is a service. that we
absolutely is
provide.
a service, because or at least at one time, our truck was there well before the ambulance got there.
And it's still that way.
Still that way. Okay. And so that's definitely something that's a benefit to the citizens.
I was always kind of curious of why was that?
Yes, sir. Like I said, it's standard in the industry. You pretty much you go to any city now and, with a paid fire department, and you're gonna have a fire truck that's gonna respond with an ambulance.
Any other questions on this one? All right. Seeing no more, I'll add this to a future council meeting for action too, please.
Catastrophic leave pool policy.
Mayor and council, the last item here is the establishment of a catastrophic leave pool program to benefit employees of the city of Navasota, regular full-time employees with 12 or more months of continuous employment who are paid from either the general fund or any of our enterprise funds. So currently, right now, the only employees that we have that are employed here are through the general fund, water fund, gas fund, or wastewater fund. May elect to transfer some earned sick leave into this pool. The leave time in this pool may then be used by eligible employees for catastrophic illness or injury, which is defined within the policy here. Participation in the pool is entirely voluntary. However, decisions will be based on whether employee contributes sick time to the pool. The pool benefits eligible employees who have exhausted all accrued leave, including vacation, comp, sick, due to catastrophic illness or injury, as defined within the policy. Again, Ms. Peggy will have some more duties there, be designated as the administrator of the catastrophic leave program. However, there will be a pooled or a review committee, which will consist of Ms. Peggy as well as our chief financial officer, 2 representatives from sworn public safety. So that would be police and fire employees. So it could either be 2 from police or 2 from fire or 1 from each. And they must be sworn officers. 2 employees from Public Works Department. So Public Works includes quite a bit of LART. So it's vehicle services, it's water, sewer, gas, it's entirely Public Works. So it'll be 2 people from that. And then 1 employee represented from the remaining civilian employees, which would be administration and as well as civilians within the police department. No elected officials will be serving on this. They'll serve a period of 1 year. And the idea is you want rank and file people as part of this committee, so it's not all directors and department heads and supervisors. That way you get a cross-function of employees. They will look at each case by case. It'll be a case-by-case discussion about whether they are going to provide, how much leave time they'll be providing to that employee. Talks about regular full-time employees with 12 or more months worth of continuous employment may contribute to and may transfer a minimum of 1 day, 8 hours, or up to 5 days, which is 40 hours. And the pool, into the pool. Thereafter, employees may contribute to the pool during the open enrollment period. So during open enrollments, when they would actually contribute that, and to be eligible for the transfer, they must, like I said, suffer from a catastrophic illness, must have 12 or more months of continuous employment with the city, must have exhausted all leave. Some of the complications or physical injuries or illnesses is listed there, which is inpatient care in hospital, hospice, residential medical care, permanent long-term incapacitated. But things that are not classified as catastrophic injury or illness is elective surgery, injuries or illnesses that are sustained while in the course of employment with an organization other than the city of Navasota. So if any of our employees have second jobs, that type of stuff, result of acquired in commission of a felony or misdemeanor while participating in a riot or act of war, voluntary self-inflicted, uncomplicated delivery of a child at the conclusion of a pregnancy is not considered catastrophic illness. Again, since the city already budgets 100% of the employee's time as earnings for this, we have a max. I don't remember the max. Peggy, what's our max accrued? 960 hours. So when an employee reaches the 960, they don't accrue anymore after that. So there are some employees that are already losing it, and so why not contribute some of that lost time to an employee that could use that time. Again, you would have to contribute to the pool in order to benefit from it at some future date. The legal counsels looked at this. We went back and forth on it, trying to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's crossed. Again, the policy's included in here. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
So just said you got Jim Doe and Mary Sue. If Jim Doe has got 50 hours in there and Mary Sue wants to contribute some of his hours to Mary Sue, can he?
So no, sir. It is not to a person.
It's just got to be
to a pool.
Okay,
No,
so
sir.
he just can't go.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. We're not going to get specific on who gets it. You contribute to a pool, and the committee determines. And here's the other piece: is the committee will look at everything related to the illness. So there are HIPAA requirements, and so this is a benefit we're trying to provide to to the employee. If you're not willing to help give some information for them to make a determination, and you're saying, hey, I'm not going to give you any of my medical, there are some medical things that we need to determine whether you fit within the policy. So there are some things that you're going to have to submit and relieve some of that HIPAA requirements. And so with that, that employee might not be able to apply for this benefit if they're not willing to provide that
So it'd
information.
be at their choice.
Yes, sir.
I have two questions. We exclude elective surgery. Just out of curiosity, I'm just thinking about bariatric surgery and somebody goes in and it's elective, but it's going to improve their medical overall. And there's we have a lady that got an extra cut and almost passed away and was out for 7 or 8 months. Elective surgery, any specific reason why that's removed?
So that wasn't the electric surgery. We were kind of
I understand.
yeah. So I mean that could be something we could come back and put some wording in there if recommended by a doctor for health reasons on
Like
that.
it covers a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if I have a tooth pulled and then
It could
something
be-
crazy
It
happens.
could be a secondary thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think if you're trying it by a case-by-case basis,
Well, but
you would have
in
discretion as a committee, no?
well in
Not
here
with-
no in here
not
it
if
actually
you
prohibits it.
specifically
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. But we definitely
A
understand
more
where
general term, maybe, if there is.
I understand where you're headed with it. If that's something we can,
We could certainly draft and address that.
yeah, Carrie can put some language.
And then the other question is, and it may be in here, and I'm sorry if I missed it. So what happens if the pregnancy is great, the child's delivered, but then there's something wrong with the child and the parent has to be out to be at the hospital with this child? Can they not pool their hours together to give to the employee who's having to stay at the hospital with the child that's everything was successful?
That's what
up
Carrie and I had he told me, he said what I had asked earlier about that happening, that would fall under catastrophic.
But they would have to exhaust the leave that they do have
Yeah.
first before they could take advantage of
Yeah,
that.
so PPL would, so that's the other thing. So PPL, so if they have the parental paid leave, if that's approved,
Correct.
they would have to exhaust that first before.
And how much work does that make the employee have to go through? I mean, there's something they have to, you said that they have to apply, I think in the earlier one, if they're in disaster mode and can't think about what all do we have to do, HR will help walk them through those.
Correct, and the committee will work with them. So I'm thinking, I'll give you an example. So a previous employer had cancer, and so went through cancer treatment, and pretty well tackled all on their own. And unfortunately, a year came back and cancer was back. They already fought that battle, and he fought it with all that he had with leave time and expenses and stuff. He already did that, and so now he's back again, needs to fight it again. So he already knew that it was coming, and so was able to do whatever he needed to tackle this by trying to fill out the information. Again, we're not trying to put a lot of paperwork on it. We're just trying to provide an avenue that should something happen to an employee, that there's some benefit to get them over that.
I get it. As the 1% of crazy things that happen to someone, I am well aware of the issues that you have. But when it says uncomplicated delivery of a child at the conclusion of a pregnancy is not considered blah, 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 I'm thinking that may put some constraints on me and my experience. Maybe not, but just throwing it out there.
Yeah, why don't we take a look at that and we'll see if, there's some method to address
Yeah,
your
sometimes it takes
concerns,
up
yeah.
to a couple of weeks before they realize that you've got serious issues. I mean, that's what happened to y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Carrie and I will work together on those two items and come up with during the final presentation too.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think that this falls into your purview, that this is the basis of the mutual insurance, basically not as necessarily as a health thing, but as a basic life insurance thing. The first insurance companies were mutual. And
Yeah. Yeah, and there's still a lot of, like workers' comp and other things that are in
Yeah.
pools like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I mean, if that's the case, then, I mean, we could put some wording in here, like similar to the tuition reimbursement, where you can't double dip. So if you've got some supplemental insurance that's paying for some of this. But again, I know that our supplemental insurance that we have only pays $1,500, I think, a week.
And it doesn't pay for your gas money back and
Yeah,
forth
and
to
$1,500
Anderson, nor does it pay for your lunches while you're there.
Isn't a
nor
lot
does it
for
pay
employees.
hotels,
Yeah.
or if your spouse's lost income, yeah.
I think in addition to, I don't know that it's a,
Okay, that's fine, that's good.
But that's my personal thought about it.
We'll definitely look at the two items that you mentioned, Carrie. The uncomplicated delivery and the elective surgery piece. Okay. All right. No other questions? Mayor, that's all I've got on.
We'll adjourn.